use already scarce resources. In hard moments, it might be easier to look away, to not make the tough calls, to ignore the humanitarian need right in front of us. But when families come thousands of miles to seek refuge from terrible circumstances, who are we as human beings if we can't provide at least temporary
financial trouble right now?
Mayor Adams making these remarks at a town hall after the city announced major budget cuts. Adams says the migrant crisis is to blame as it continues to put a strain on New York City resources.
The national government should be picking up this tab, and it should not be coming out of the backs of everyday New Yorkers. That is wrong, and that is what is happening.
This right here, my friends, sounds like a bailout is about to occur, or a lot of taxpayer dollars are going to be sent to these two cities that we're about to talk about to take care of what's obviously a problem that's getting more and more and more out of hand. Now, guys, about a week ago, I did a video talking about Venezuelans leaving Chicago, leaving New York, leaving some of the cities that they had been staying in because, well, they applied for asylum, or they applied to stay here. They applied for their visas beyond July 21st. And don't worry, we'll be going back to that here in a second, because this right is actually this right here is a story about two cities that obviously have obviously they are about to become 100% totally, fully bankrupt, and they're not going to have the ability to do anything as far as law enforcement, firefighting, EMS, and of course sanitation, which I think is really the biggest one here, especially going into winter. I know somebody's going to say it's always worse during the summer, but when you consider the fact that unclean conditions, and you consider the fact that winter is coming, winter is already here in a couple of these places, that right there being the bigger cities of the United States, don't worry, we haven't really heard anything out of Boston yet, but I'm pretty sure we will here in the near future. I'm pretty sure we'll also be hearing some things out of Newark, North Jersey, of course, Minneapolis, Detroit, the bigger blue cities of the country, some of them, of course, in the Midwest, and some of them here, of course, in the East. That right there is yet to come. Now, here's the thing. The migrant crisis has gotten out of control. I knew it was going to be a problem from day one, and of course, we haven't even gotten fully into the whole crime stage just yet, and I'm pretty sure that that is coming, and it just may come a little bit earlier than we originally suspected. But what the cities are doing right now is that they are completely out of money. They're asking for taxpayers to bail them out. They've got these work visas. And don't worry, I'll get onto that a little bit more towards the end of the video, because I got to still ask the question, why in the world are all the people that we're giving these work permits to, why are they all Venezuelan? Very interesting stuff, but don't worry, we'll ponder that towards the end of the video. But with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to the actual news reports. Let's go ahead and take a look at this first one out of Chicago, and let's just go ahead and just dissect this the best way we can and find out what's about to happen.
Approval comes as there are 12,281 migrants in 25 shelters across the city. Right now, more than 1,800 people are still awaiting placements. There are more than 2,000 migrants in Chicago right now, but our Tara Molina learned about a quarter of them are eligible for the special protection and work permits that have been made possible by the federal government.
Tara is joining us live from the newsroom. Tara, you asked experts what that means for those who are not eligible and what it means for the city.
Exactly, Jim and Marie. We've told you the process to apply for temporary protection status isn't easy and typically needs to be done with an attorney. But what about the thousands of people here who don't even have the option?
Federal temporary protected status, made possible for nationals of certain countries designated unsafe by the Department of Homeland Security. People can only apply if they arrived in the U.S. by July 31st. If they're both eligible and approved, they can legally work and live in the United States for up to 18 months. Here in Chicago, we know the majority of recent arrivals are from Venezuela. And according to the National Immigrant Justice Center, most of the people here eligible for the federal temporary protected status are from there. Lisa Koop is their National Director of Legal Services. I asked her about the thousands here right now who aren't eligible for temporary protection because they arrived after the July 31st deadline. Their only option, she says, apply for asylum, a much more difficult process.
So there really are thousands of people in Chicago right now that are kind of stuck in an in-between because of the deadline.
That's right. And so we have a lot of people and a growing population of people who need some other form of relief. And so we'll look at those cases, we'll figure out who should be applying for asylum, and we'll do our very best to connect those people with services and help them apply for asylum. Asylum, like I said, is such a long process. You Once you even apply, you're waiting 150 days before you're even eligible to ask for employment authorization. And then the path to ultimately having that application adjudicated is probably more like years.
Now, I'm told the applications for temporary protected status typically take around 6 months to process, but there's a push right now to expedite that to about a month. We have more from.
So as you guys can see, they're trying to budget around the winter. And I did say this in the previous video, and even the video before that, that the winter was obviously going to be a problem. You've got people who are now saying, look, we don't know what to do. Maybe we should go head somewhere else. I can't get to LA. I can't get to San Francisco. I can't get these places because I ain't got the money because we did not get our federal work permit. Fact of the matter is that you told these people that they could get the American dream. However, you haven't really provided that in these people's eyes, or maybe you have. You see, one of the things that we've been talking about the most is we're talking about the fact, especially in Chicago, that a lot of these people are getting like $7,000 a month by the federal government, or they got a payout of $7,000, meaning that they're basically getting a lot of free money. They're getting a lot of advantages here. The cities are opening up certain places for housing, stuff like that. And of course, you've got a lot of people in these neighborhoods that are a little bit upset about this. Mostly people of mostly people who are of color. That right there being mostly black people, the most loyal voting constituency of these cities. Of course, that right there being most loyal to the Democratic Party, to the current leadership. Brandon Johnson only won by 3 points. And of course, Eric Adams, he won in a relative landslide in his mayoral election. And don't worry, we'll get to Eric Adams here soon because, of course, he's being investigated by the FBI. And I think we all know the real reason for that, but we'll talk about that here a little bit more in a second. But when the city of Chicago now has this situation where you have migrants that are sitting outside, and these migrants are probably saying to themselves, what do we do? What can we do? You're creating a possible humanitarian crisis. I've been saying this in the past couple of videos that once the winter hits and you see that people are not fully clothed and you see the conditions in the street get a lot worse, and of course the jealousy as it continues to get higher and higher and higher because one particular voting block, one particular identity, which we'll be talking about a little bit more on Monday's video on identity politics. I'm pretty sure you guys can see that these types of outcomes will in fact occur. And we're kind of in the beginning stage of what's about to be, let's just say, a good old-fashioned crap hit the fan scenario. Let's watch some more.
A bus of brand new arrivals pulls up at the 12th District Police Station today. While migrants continue to arrive daily in Chicago, the amount is not nearly as many as it was over the summer when daily bus arrivals were in the double digits. Today, the city is expecting only 2 buses. Volunteer Luciana Diaz says the Halloween day snow was a reality check for many living at the police stations.
The snow day, it was freezing for everybody, and I told them that's nothing. This is nothing, guys. You should start looking for a shelter or go to other state, other city.
With the realization of a cold winter ahead, combined with the lack of shelter and jobs, many migrants we spoke with at the 1st and 12th District Police stations say if given the opportunity, they would leave Chicago for another city. Diaz says some migrants even want to go back to their home country.
They have an American dream, for in my opinion, is a fake American dream. So they asking me a lot for if I know somebody who can buy a ticket flight for them to come back to Venezuela.
Sixth-Ward Alderman Will Hall, who traveled to the border a few weeks ago, says word is spreading on social media among migrants that Chicago may not be the best place to come. And border nonprofits say not as many people are asking to come to Chicago.
So people are beginning to get informed that it's cold, the opportunities are scarce, and that unless you want to sleep on a concrete mattress, don't come. And that's what those who have come seeking asylum have said.
Jorge Barrera has been living at a police station for 6 months.
No tenemos el dinero.
With no opportunity to work here, the 39-year-old says he would leave, but he doesn't have the money or luxury to pack up and go to warmer places like California, Texas, or Miami. Despite a migrant slowdown, there are still not enough shelters to accommodate all the new arrivals living at police stations, and the 2 proposed base camps are still weeks away from being ready and able to accommodate people.
It goes back to the whole, you basically sold us the American dream. I hate to tell you this, but we did not need you to come over. Now, guys, I'm not fully against immigration. I am for legal immigration. I used to be a little bit more lenient on this, mostly due to the fact that I'm from an area that is pretty well diverse. We had a lot of people that came over from Mexico, El Salvador, Venezuela, And of course, this also includes Colombia too. A lot of these people would come here, they'd mind their own business, they would work, and there was no problem. It wasn't until later on in life that I realized that they were actually breaking the law. Call that right there the mind of a child, whatever you want to say. But of course, I've gotten a little bit harder on this issue over time. Now, me personally, I think that what should have happened in this case was that the application for asylum should have occurred in Mexico, meaning you should remain in Mexico before you get here. But of course, the Biden administration needs to sacrifice an entire voting block of people. Of course, we've talked about this before, that this actually BRT and not WRT. WRT is a much bigger discussion, but I think right now it's a little bit closer to BRT at the moment, and that is exactly what the Democratic Party is doing. And obviously, some people who are over here that are getting it over here, who, by the way, have been housed in hotels, they're being given $7,000 a month, all kinds of benefits, about to get work permits. I think they're starting to get a little bit, let's just say, I'm going to use this term, hopefully not getting banned, but I heard Greg Foreman use it the other day, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it looks like they're getting a little bit uppity about the situation. And with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to New York, because the situation in New York, to me, I think is way worse than what it is in Chicago, seeing out was that Chicago was a crap hole already made, and yet New York is just becoming more and more of a crap hole, but it may be in a much worse position than Chicago is. Let's go ahead and get to this.
More about the steep budget cuts coming from Mayor Eric Adams, calling for 5% cuts in every department, including public safety. This as he continues to make a public appeal for the federal government to step up and help offset the cost of the migrant crisis. Fox 5's Lizette Nunez joins us now from outside City Hall with what the mayor is asking for. Good morning, Lizette.
Good morning, Dan. Well, the budget cuts are far-reaching. We're talking every city agency will be impacted, and this goes into effect immediately.
We're in some serious financial trouble right now.
Mayor Adams making these remarks at a town hall after the city announced major budget cuts. Adams says the migrant crisis is to blame as it continues to put a strain on New York City resources.
The national government should be picking up this tab, and it should not be coming out of the backs of everyday New Yorkers. That is wrong, and that is what is happening.
The budget cuts mean that the police force would be reduced to under 30,000, the lowest number in decades, plus impose a hiring freeze on the NYPD that would postpone 5 new classes of incoming officers. The PBA president calling it a disaster at a time where officers are already stretched thin.
We have a crisis in this city. We do not have enough police officers.
Other departments will also be impacted. The FDNY will be asked to reduce overtime costs. Any civilian vacancies will be eliminated, as well as light-duty firefighter positions.
As the mayor has said, we're concerned about, this fiscal crunch, the migrant crisis, and what it's going to do to our bottom line. Right now, our main objective is to make sure that we are protecting life and property, which is our mission. We can still do that, even with these budget cuts, but it does mean that some important programs will have to wait.
As for the Department of Education, $1 billion will be slashed over the next 2 years. Middle schoolers will see reduced hours for the Summer Rising program, and thousands of pre-K spots will be cut. This comes as New York City Public Schools saw its first bump in enrollment in years. 8,000 additional students have been added to the school system. City libraries will not be spared from cuts. Library leaders say starting next month, most of their branches will be forced to close on Sunday. And the Department of Sanitation will also be feeling the impacts. There will be fewer litter pickups, and the mayor urging New Yorkers to clean up after themselves and help up with any cleanup, which is a similar message he sent when the incoming class of school safety agents was cut. Happening later today, there will also be a rally here with elected leaders as well as union leaders who will be opposing these cuts. That's the latest here from City Hall. We'll send things back inside.
Hearing a lot more about this. Okay, Lizette, thank you very much.
Guys, I want to save the comments on the sanitation issue here for the next segment, because there's another news clip that came from CBS New York that I think encapsulated just a little bit better and was a little bit more detailed, especially when you actually talk to the people who live in the city itself. The thing is this right here, when you're starting to make, let's just say, cuts to your police department, and let me go ahead and kind of go back in time just a little bit before I go any further. During the whole defund the police movement stuff, and I had made a video, which for whatever reason I chose to take down like a year later. I have no idea why I did. This is back when I was deleting videos and crap and my algorithmic timing was gone. But here's the thing. When that entire situation was going on, I thought it was the most ludicrous thing in the world. Not because I like the police or anything, even though I did go through the academy, graduate, but I just didn't get hired. The problem was that law enforcement, for the most part, is who coordinates emergency services. That right there also including fire and rescue and, of course, EMS. In New York and a lot of other major cities, a lot of times the EMS is attached to fire department. It's not like where it is where you're in a smaller town where you've got like a county EMS department or you've got a small city EMS department or volunteer fire department or whatnot. This right here is an actual, literal city department. And in order, the first thing you have to do, especially if you're an EMT, is you have to call to make sure the scene is secure. What I mean by that is that you roll up on the scene to provide medical care or to transport someone to the hospital. You need to make sure that the neighborhood you're going into does not have anybody walking around, say, ready to shoot somebody or anything. The scene's got to be secure. That's why a lot of times you will see law enforcement go with EMS depending on the neighborhood that they're in. Place like New York, place like Chicago, place like Boston or whatnot, you're more than likely going to see the blue lights go along with the red lights. And of course, that right there is something that you're going to need. One of the main reasons why I was so much against the whole defund the police movement was because what if grandma has a damn heart attack and she lives in an extremely rough neighborhood and the EMS can't get to that house because you got gang members in the neighborhood? You got to have law enforcement there to secure the scene. That's one of the main problems that I have with the defund the police stuff, and I thought was all completely emotional and emotional responses to a guy who was high on fentanyl that an officer left his knee on his neck a little bit too long. But still at the same time, and yeah, I'm ready to take the flak for that one too, and quite frankly, I don't care. The thing that you have to understand in this situation here is that by lowering police, by making more and more cuts, especially not getting brand new officers on through your police academy, by lowering, making cuts to your fire department, you're running a serious risk of crime being pretty much unchecked now. Now, in the city of New York, I can already hear somebody saying, we've already got enough crime and crime is already not being checked. Okay, imagine what happens with this situation when you've actually made more cuts to your fire and EMS, especially given the fact that what we've seen in Chicago in the previous videos that I've done on this topic were certain people of a certain voting bloc, of a certain color, are beginning to get a little bit jealous of the situation. I mean, dude, if you want to provide help to anybody, it needs to be homeless vets at this moment in time, not these illegals who, quite frankly, should not be here right now at this moment in time, because we've got a very weak, ineffective president, which, of course, if he was actually effective, the situation probably would have been taken care of a lot sooner, even if they did try to screw things up. Now, let me go ahead and kind of explain what I mean by this. I have been saying from day one that this administration would screw up the screw up. Their goal is to intentionally screw up this country and make it pretty much unlivable. Their goal is to replace a certain voting bloc with another one. But they would, and I've continued this from the very start, that they would screw up their own screw up because these people are really and truly all a bunch of flunkies. Which now brings me to the sanitation issue.
City agencies, Mayor Adams unveiled details today, including cuts to the NYPD that will drop the number of police officers patrolling the streets to the lowest number since the 1990s. Also, fewer litter baskets on street corners and fewer resources for cleaning up vacant lots and greenways. Cuts to education programs, including pre-K and 3K, and more cuts.
And tonight we're hearing from New Yorkers about how these cuts could impact the quality of life.
CBS 2's Lisa Rosner on the Upper East Side with this part of the story. Lisa?
Well, Dana and Dick, many New Yorkers we spoke to are disappointed by the cuts, concerned about safety and cleanliness. And as you mentioned, there will be fewer litter baskets on the streets like this one here on 2nd Avenue and 86th Street. You can see even with it here, there is still trash on the street.
It used to be cleaner.
I think it's terrible. New Yorkers and tourists alike told us they've noticed more trash in the city, and it's likely about to get worse. A $5.5 million cut to sanitation means there will be fewer litter baskets. And it's not just concerns about a dirty city, but a potentially dangerous one. Also being cut, the next 5 classes at the police academy.
Nobody wants the cops to do anything, and now you're going to cut them more.
The number of officers is expected to drop by around 5,000, from nearly 34,000 to 29,000 in the fiscal year that starts next July. The Police Benevolent Association president saying in part, this is truly a disaster. Cops are already stretched to our breaking point, and these cuts will return us to staffing levels we haven't seen since the crime epidemic of the 80s and 90s. We cannot go back there.
We will work with the police in Times Square to make sure that we stay safe.
The president of the Times Square Alliance says there is private security that works closely with cops, as well as an 80-person sanitation team that will keep the area clean. For people who frequent libraries, they will no longer be open Sundays. The new schedule takes effect at some locations next Sunday.
It is a disservice to the students and them having some place to go to study.
The mayor has warned these cuts would be coming because of the growing cost of the asylum.
New York City was already falling apart. I've talked to a lot of people from New York because we have a lot of people from New York itself, Brooklyn, Queens, of course, Manhattan, that moved down here where I live at. And most of these people, by the way, they don't vote Democrat like the typical stereotype you might would think. Typically, it's those who vote Republican. They're the ones who normally leave first, and then the Democrats always leave a little bit later, and they typically carry their politics with them. We've also got the same problem with Californians, too. For as many Californians that come over that are actually very, very liberal, that plan on voting to the left, as many people who come down here from New England who plan on voting Democrat, there's also just as many people from New York and just as many people from Wisconsin and just as many people from Virginia who move down here who plan on voting Republican. So it kind of cancels itself out. But still, the thing about the sanitation issue, can you imagine the trash pile up, the stink? And by the way, when you leave trash out for a certain amount of time, people come across that, they get sick. You factor in the cold weather that is yet to come, that is on its way here now in the Midwest and Northern United States. And by the way, here in the South, we're expected to have a pretty brutal winter too. It's just the way the cycle's kind of working out this time around. I advise you guys to go follow weather channels on this platform, and you'll get more information on that. When you factor in the weather, when you factor in people living in tents, you factor in people who are not equipped, people that were actually brought in illegally that should not have been brought in, you're looking at the possibility of a big-time humanitarian crisis. And now that you've decided to make cuts to your sanitation department, the streets are about to get dirtier and dingier than normal, and it's very, very possible that the stuff that you saw in San Francisco, where people are defecating on the streets and stuff, has officially made its way to New York and officially made its way to Chicago. Boston's the next one to go after that. You'll probably see it in Philadelphia. I'm pretty sure you'll see it in northern New Jersey, especially now with the Israel-Gaza situation. I'm pretty sure more and more and more illegals are going to be coming that, quite frankly, we don't know where they're coming from. But this right here begs the question about the Venezuela situation. And I'll get to the Palestine situation because I'm showing you guys something right now on the B-roll footage, which, of course, is going to be used again in Monday's video on identity politics, because this right here is a good example of identity politics failing and the attempts at it completely failing. Why in the world is it that we're importing so many Venezuelans? It's a very, very good question. Last I checked, Venezuela did not have a friendly relationship with the United States. It was a little bit antagonistic. The Biden administration thinks it's a good idea to basically appease these people. This was a staple of the Obama administration. Anytime he would go out there and say that America is not a Christian nation, and he would say the type of stuff that he did, it emboldened radical Islam. I know I hear a lot of people out there who claim that you're not really and truly America first if you believe this. No, what I am is a traditional conservative who served in that region twice, and for the most part, I am America first, but I do believe in keeping allies, and I do believe that radical Islam is always going to be a problem, regardless of whose fault that it is for the reason why it is the way it is. These people have always been like this. And now you're bringing over Venezuelans who, quite frankly, did not show up here for the American dream. They claimed they were. They were given $7,000 a month in some of these situations, and now they've gotten, like Greg Foreman said, complete and totally uppity over the situation. And now the situation's about to get a lot worse. So I'm pretty sure you're probably going to see more things get out of hand, especially given the fact that a lot of these people can't travel, or maybe they had the opportunity to travel, but they chose to spend the money on a bunch of other BS. Fact of the matter is, we've been a little bit too nice to these people. And of course, I said that this right here would in fact happen. And now you're about to see the deep freeze hit. But there is one person out there with complete total TDS that's finally starting to come around this issue.
If it comes down to pig dick Donald Trump and smoking Joe Biden, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Voting for pig dick Donald Trump is on the table. I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry. I'll still call him slob dick Donald Trump, pig dick Donald Trump and all that. But we need to get this whole fucking situation under control.
Now, Michael Rappaport, I don't like. I never have liked him. I've always thought he was annoying. Very annoying. Rappaport lives in, I want to say he was living in California at one time. Maybe he's moved back to New York. Most of the videos that he posts is normally in New York. You know, he's wearing a coat, especially in the wintertime. I'm pretty sure many of you guys remember the time that he got hit in the face with a snowball. Let me refresh your mind.
You know, this whole crap with this cancel culture and the...
Shut up! Shit! Shut the fuck up! Nobody wants to hear it. Fucker. You've been talking all fucking week. You don't care what you have to say, just stop talking.
You got me right in my fucking head, asshole.
Stop.
Damn it.
Yeah, that was staged. I actually shared that a long time ago thinking that it wasn't, but of course, it come to find out it was actually staged. I'm not saying that Michael Rappaport is going to go out there and vote for pig dick Trump. I'm not saying that at all. But as you guys can obviously see, there are a lot of people, even those with the most radical sections or the most radical portions of Trump derangement syndrome, are starting to question why it was that they decided to support an extremely feeble old man over somebody who just pissed them off with mean tweets. Just figure I'd throw that out there. This that's going on right now is for the most part on them. And while his rant may not be completely connected to this right here, it's definitely close to it, especially given the circumstances. But we'll be talking more about that on Monday when we get to the whole identity politics video, the Ethan Klein, Hassan Piker video, the explanation there. That's going to be released on Sunday. This right here is going to be kind of a replacement video for that one there. Just running a little bit behind on that little project. But please, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. And I'll see you guys later.